Thank you very much. And last, but certainly not least, we have with us Safety Education California Operation Lifesaver program, Nancy Sheehan McCullough,
Yes.
who is the state coordinator of that program. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Nancy Sheehan. I am the state coordinator for California Operation Lifesaver. In the United States, about every 3 hours, a person or a vehicle is hit by a train. Whether they're hit on foot or in a vehicle, the result is almost always the same: severe injury and even death. Operation Lifesaver is a nonprofit organization dedicated to seek and reduce collisions, injuries, and fatalities at our rail-grade crossings and on our railroad rights-of-way. California Operation Lifesaver, CAOL, is committed to providing the people of California the information they need to make smart, life-saving decisions around railroad property and at rail-grade crossings. We support and believe in the 3 E's: education, encourage enforcement, encourage engineering. Currently, FRA statistics for 2014 indicate that California ranks #1 in trespass incidents. Ranking #1 in the country, California has the greatest number of trespass incidents and fatalities. The total number of casualties rose to 154 in 2014, up from 119 in 2013. This is a 29.4% increase. With the rise in casualties, the number of fatalities increased by 48.5%, from 68 in 2013 to 101 in 2014. Over the last 4 years, we've had 487 incidents with 292 fatalities. The trespass numbers are not localized just to one area. It's across California, central, northern, southern California. While our grade crossing statistics have dropped from 146 incidents in 2013 to 128 in 2014, we still rank 3rd in the nation with our grade crossing incidents, and we have the highest fatality rate in the United States. Currently, Federal Railroad Administration Association data shows that the highway rail-grade crossing collisions and pedestrian trespass on tracks together account for over 95% of all railroad fatalities. Getting the word out is crucial. Education helps, and it matters. As our population and our train traffic grows, so does the need to raise public awareness about rail safety. California Operation Lifesaver has trained authorized volunteers to make free presentations statewide to all variety of audiences, from K through 12 to truckers to school bus transit drivers, our law enforcement, civic groups, our first responders, and civic and traffic schools and driver's education, all groups within California. Collaborating with our railroads, Caltrans, transit providers, our law enforcement, city governments, school districts, and public service agencies, private industry organizations, and area businesses, we work to raise awareness about rail safety. We utilize other formats, including strong visual materials, interactive campaigns, and growing social media awareness. What is needed? Our support from our partners is key to our success. California Operation Lifesaver's partners with our public agencies and our railroads. We have a tremendous state partnership with Caltrans, and the state of California about 7 years ago proclaimed September as Rail Safety Month, and cities throughout California have followed the lead of the state by promoting the Rail Safety Month outreach efforts. However, our efforts go all year long. In the last 4 years, California Operation Lifesaver has reached over 515,000 Californians with our rail safety message. But more education is needed. In order to grow our rail safety message throughout California, we need more partnerships, more funding, more resource opportunities so that our rail safety education can continue to be effective. Dedicated resources to California Operation Lifesaver can help us continue the critical task of promoting safety along the 10,871 miles of railway in California. Support, funding, partnership are all key to expanding the rail safety message and changing the numbers to save lives. Something as simple as support to promote messaging on the Amber Alert signage along highways would be huge. We have been unsuccessful to make that happen. California Operation Lifesaver continues to look for opportunities to broaden our outreach with public service announcements, high-impact signage, exhibits at community events, promotional partnerships with local media in high-risk areas, and more. Participation as a safety partner helps CAOL broaden the reach of the C-TRAC Think Train campaign and education, and will help prevent tragic and needless loss of life. We know education works. We know we can successfully join other rail safety partners to address these challenges, making communities with tracks and railroad properties safer, reducing collisions, incidents, and decreasing the likelihood of injuries and fatalities. We know with the support and partnership funding and Operation Lifesaver, we know that what we do saves lives, and we appreciate any support that will help us get the message out there so that every time you and the public sees tracks, they think train. I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. I was going to ask you, other than as a kid you were supposed to stop, look, and listen, what are the kinds of approaches that you recommend? I know you said when you see tracks, think train. What's the public supposed to do?
Well, sadly, I think part of that whole education is the public doesn't understand and doesn't realize that being on those tracks is trespassing. They get impatient. They don't think life is worth the wait to not go around that gate. And so what we need to do is first begin that awareness with our public to have them understand, and that requires funding and education, to be able to reach out to media, to be able to reach out with and work with our partners to do special safety events so that the messaging gets out.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Well, thank you all. Now is the time for public comment. We've got about 10 minutes for that. I see a bunch of familiar faces and people who are here. Certainly. So, as they're coming up to speak, yeah, Senator Bell.
I wanted to, I'm sorry, this is the budget day and I had to leave. You know, we were talking about the budget all day. And I was talking about transportation, so.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think one of the issues in my area is the number of young people that are suicidal that get in front of trains. And I think as part of passenger train safety, that agencies that operate these trains should have suicide prevention programs, working with the communities. And specifically, the Caltrain is committed to me that they will do that. I think other trains should be working on suicide safety. It would be nice if we had a statewide approach to that problem. You know, looking at it from a statewide approach, Madam Chair, in terms of rail passenger rail systems, of what we can do as a state to reduce suicides. In our area, there was one high school where 5 kids actually in 1 year.
Really?
The one started doing it, and the other started doing it. It was pretty gruesome. So I think that's something we need to. I would put that on the basket list.
Great.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Actually hadn't thought of that. I don't know what percentage of fatalities are due to.
There is data on that, so we can get the information.
Well, that would be helpful. I know we've had a few in my community as well, but that would be helpful to know that. So we've got 10 minutes. We've got 4 people. We can give you each 2 unless are there other people who want to speak as well. All right, we'll give you each 2.5 minutes. Thank you. So let's start with you, Ms. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Senator. Paul Dyson, President of the Rail Passengers Association of California.
Why did I know you'd be here?
And in view of the limited time, let me just throw some one-liners at you. First of all, thank you for setting this hearing up. We very much appreciate your work on this. Safety. Number one for us is grade separations. We're very concerned that it's the cause of a high number of accidents happen at grade crossings. Positive train control is great, but I think there's the idea that you just went out and bought a Garmin and stuck it in the cab of the locomotive. It's far more complex than that, and it's going to take a lot of fine-tuning to make it work properly. So that's going to be a long time coming, but OCTA has done a great job on grade seps. The JPAs, A lot of fine words spoken today, but we think the jury's still out. I'm sorry to be cynical and to inject a sour note, but we've got a lot of experience in Southern California of the JPAs, Metrolink, and the other agencies not working together. You go to Oceanside today, you still got 3 different ticket machines for 3 different rail services out of the same station. It's not good enough. We hope that the new JPAs will work together. We hope that this committee and the state will hold their feet to the fire to make sure that that happens. Modernization. Senator Bell, we really appreciate your points. We believe in electrification. New diesel locomotives are going to be very expensive, and we recommend that you look at after treatment for the existing locomotives, which can bring them up almost to the same grade, and hybridization of existing locomotives, so that they act like a maximum Prius and save fuel and reduce emissions. User-friendly service. We need a universal statewide ticketing system. What we're getting is some regional band-aids. We're the home of Silicon Valley, for goodness sake. We've got to have an electronic ticketing system that works throughout the state, that covers not only the main intercity routes but also the transit connections. Delivery. We've been 20 years waiting for Coachella Valley service. It's been in the state rail plan for 20 years. 20 years wait for the Coast Dayline. Now they're talking about another 7 years it'll take to get the Coachella Valley service. We've got to get these delivery times down. It's no good us going out advocating these services to the public and not delivering them. Proposition 1B, 2006, new locomotives and rail cars, still not delivered. It just won't do. Relationships with the freight railroads, we need a high-level discussion. It's no good going one at a time to Union Pacific. We need a high-level discussion for a win-win formula for both freight and passenger capacity. It's all about capacity. And finally, intercity buses. There's a lot of empty seats on intercity trains and intercity buses. There's a lot of fuel being wasted hauling rolling stock around. We need to revisit SB 804 from 1999, and we need to look at a way of integrating these services so that we cover far more towns and small communities around the state by having this option of interlining or having the small intercity operators acting as feeder services for Amtrak. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Done very efficiently. Our next, thank you, Paul. Always a pleasure. Our next witness or public response.
Good afternoon, Senator Jackson and members of the Select Committee. My name is Mike Barnbaum. I'm a writer. I reside in Sacramento, and I want to talk to the committee today about something familiar around the corridors in the state capitol, constitutional guaranteed funding. This is something you're familiar with when the state budget has a surplus that through Proposition 98, much of the guaranteed funding has to go to schools. We feel it also should be in that transportation, rail transportation, not inclusive, of course, but a key part of it needs to get some kind of guaranteed constitutional funding through the state budget process. We've heard many ads on the radio in particular from Will Durst from the California Alliance for Jobs about our deteriorating infrastructure, which rail transportation is a key part of. We feel that if a pie was divided in 4 parts, 25% each, roads with maintenance, bike lanes, and sidewalks would get 25%. All of the rail transportation corridors in California, including those emerging corridors, would get a guaranteed source of funding of 25%. Public transit systems in California would get 25%, and the other 25% would go to our major airports in the state. We feel that while cap and trade and the low carbon transit operations program are good starts, we don't know how long those are going to last and how long the guarantee is for. So we ask that you take a look at as you go forward to deliberate this and future state budgets that put transportation as well as schools and education at the forefront of those that will get guaranteed funding, because we can't be successful unless we have successful transportation systems to get to places people need to go, and rail transportation is certainly one of those critical ingredients going forward.
Thank you. I wish we had had you here yesterday before the budget came out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm just kidding. Next witness.
Good afternoon, Chair, and Chair. I am David Schoenbrunn, Vice President for Policy of the Train Riders Association of California. We support Chairman Bell's SB 9 focus on transformative projects. We would like to see the substantial jump in intercity ridership that will come with much higher speeds. Our latest issue of the California Rail News, which I'll hand you, includes our suggestion for a new east-west exclusive passenger route for ACE and the San Joaquin. It would do far more for ridership than the current ACE Forward proposal to extend down to Modesto. TRAC is discussing ideas for improving the Surfliner corridor. We'll be sharing those with you later in the spring. Our other priority is the Caltrain Downtown Extension. This project will transform the commute into San Francisco. It is under threat, however, from the city itself, which wants to cannibalize the rail yard, Caltrain's rail yard. While the site is certainly attractive to developers, losing that rail yard could gravely harm Caltrain's operating economics. This proposal is part of a very worrying trend. At the very same time that cap and trade funds are being spent to increase rail ridership, cities are pursuing development projects that hurt transit and reduce ridership. You have a very painful example of that right here in Sacramento, where the city, pursuing an arena, moved the Amtrak platforms so far from the station that it's grossly inconvenient for passengers. One person even died in the process of walking to the platform. The Capitol Corridor ridership took a significant hit. The legislature needs to protect transit that have other priorities. On another note, we are concerned that the current structure of cap and trade funding forces intercity JPAs to compete with their member agencies for project funds. We urge you to enact an intercity set-aside. Finally, we wish the new JPAs much success as they begin operational control.
Thank you very much. And our last but not least testimony.
As the last speaker, I'll be very brief and concise, and thanks for allowing the time for this on such a long day. I'm going to use my own story today.
Tell us who you are and who you
Oh,
work
I'm
with.
sorry. Nate Knott from Stockton, California, a transit planner with the San Joaquin Regional Transit District, also a neighbor of the ACE people in Stockton.
Got it.
In fact, I'll be at their Joint Powers Authority meeting tomorrow. Anyway, instead of some fancy testimony, I'm going to use today's example of coming to Sacramento on why everything that's been said today is so important, and to echo most of what all these gentlemen just said. I was simply trying to come here without a car today. I use my own bus system in Stockton, and walking for 85% of my trips. I rarely drive. I use Greyhound, Amtrak trips all across the United States quite frequently. I've even ridden passenger trains before Amtrak. Having said that, today I took my transit bus to downtown to catch my Greyhound bus to Sacramento so I could walk over here. And, of course, that is a long walk from the Richards Depot, by the way. But anyway, I got to the Greyhound station, which is no longer open in the morning at that time of day, the building. And there was people there waiting with luggage, but apparently they were waiting to be picked up because apparently my bus had left early or didn't operate. I don't know which. There was never a 6:30 a.m. depart. By the way, from Stockton, 310,000 people, to Sacramento, 466,000 people, in the nation's most populous state, where we're talking about a metro population of about 2 million people. I had one choice to get here today by not using a car. That was a 6 a.m. Greyhound Express or 6:30 Greyhound Local, and I tried the 6:30 Local. I never saw the bus ever show up. I finally had to go back to RTD, get a company car, and drive up here. So that's almost all you need to know about transportation in California and generally, by extension, the United States. Number way to solve it is dedicated funding, number one. Number two, I'm all for what the ACE people that are with the Joint Powers Authority are talking about, which is mid-corridor schedules, balanced frequency, because I had no choice of a morning train on either Amtrak or ACE or any other system. And I would also agree that there needs to be joint ticketing. It's a real problem for people trying to use transit when suddenly they have to figure out 3 or 4 different ticket choices on different systems with different fare structures. Some are zones, some are blanket fares, and so forth. There needs to be more creative ticketing, and I've testified to this at Joint Powers Authority meetings. There needs to be incentives to buy tickets such as round-trip discounts. That used to exist, but that seems to have gone away. And, of course, Amtrak has gotten a lot better with, and I imagine ACE has also, with the fact that you can now do electronic ticketing is very important. So I will let it go at that because I'm the last speaker. But my trip today speaks volumes. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much for actually being persistent to make the trip. I mean, I agree. That tells the story as well as anything. We just we have to do better. This is just really not acceptable, and certainly cap and trade has been a big help. But I think everyone has said we need a dedicated funding stream over and above that. I don't know if that will fall on deaf ears, but certainly there is federal money, or there theoretically should be. There's state money we've heard talk about, regional. If we get more people on the trains, the fare box can be very significant. We don't need to keep building more and more freeways. We have not built ourselves out of this built freeways out of this problem. And I'd just like to thank you for being here today, all of you, and we're going to have another committee hearing hopefully in the fall. At that time, I hope to hear that the Joint Powers Authorities are up and running and seamlessly as they've committed to. We really need to consider intercity rail. I'm very interested in what I heard about working with Union Pacific and the other rail systems to really try to work together and to create a partnership that's going to be productive, and most importantly that we keep focusing on safety. The notion that we've had so many incidents, whether they're inadvertent or whether because young people or others, anyone is using the train as a form of a form of suicide, just is not acceptable. And so those are my thoughts, and I want to thank my co-chair here and ask if you want to have any final words.
I'll just thank everyone for their participation today. I think we've had an informative discussion, and I can't stress enough we need to move forward to make these things more accessible. And so your story certainly illustrates the point. And people's livelihoods are depending on this in my part of the world and other parts of California as well. So thank you all for coming, for participating, and look forward to our hearing in the fall. And thank you, Senator Jackson.
Thank you. And Senator Bell, the head of our transportation in the Senate, I would be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to speak. You've had a long day. Yes. Thank you all very much. We are adjourned.